Hello everyone, hope everyone is doing well. So today we're going to, in this chat application series, we're going to do the authentication. That means we're going to implement the register login and the authentication flow of our application. So let me show you the application. So this is our application. We already have a video about the UI preview and the packages we are installed. And I want to show you something like I also install another package, that is React Redux, in order to we are using Redux toolkit. So we need this React Redux in order to connect our application to Redux. And I also added the Redux things we need, Redux file inside the application folder. Let me show you from the beginning. We have a app folder. Inside that folder we have our stuff like component, navigation, screen, services, and everything we are using. So inside that we have a folder called Redux, and we have a reducer and store. So we already set up our reducer for the user, and we also already set up the store, as you can see over here. And we also added our Redux in the index.js file. You can add that over here. You can simply implement that into app.js also. It's up to you. So I think in the app.js there will be lots of things. So I guess if you use the index.js, because we pretty much like never looked into this file, because we don't have to. So if you implement this Redux over here, so your code will be much prettier in app.js. So we are implementing over here, and so we added our Redux over here, and we also added our services. One is the auth services, because if you are doing authentication flow, you need a local storage to identify that the user is logged in or not. So we are going to use async storage for that. And we have already set up a file that based on that function it will return the value of that, and I am using the React Native community async storage. And if you call any function if you are going to call this function, like suppose you want to get account or maybe set account, so eventually it will call the storage file. Inside the storage we have that set and get, because we are calling, okay, let me show you one more time. We are calling the get function, set function, things like that. So if you are going to call this function, so you can call that also. So it's pretty much easy to call. You don't have to import async storage in your file manually and do the stuff that you have to do. We can simply set up async storage in a single file, and you can use it in our application whenever you want and wherever you want. So it's pretty much easier for me, I guess. You can use this, you can follow this method, or if you don't like this method, you can simply implement your own method. It's up to you. And I will also attach the project project link in the description also. If you want to check that out, you can also check that out. Okay, so we have a register screen. So let me first open the register screen over here. This is register screen. So we have 4 fields over here. First is enter full name, enter email ID, enter password, and enter about. And we're going to use React Native Firebase Realtime database, right? So we have I opened the Realtime database and documentation in case we need it. And we also added our project to Firebase in the previous videos. If you haven't watched that, please check that out in case you don't know how to add a project to Firebase. So we're going to use a real-time database. So first let's open the real-time database over here. And if you're like you're adding your fresh project, it will give you the option to create the database. So if you click on create, it will ask for the real-time database location and everything. We don't want to change that also. If you want to change, you can change that. And we are going to use the test mode. So let me enable that. And you can also use the locked mode. It's up to you, because you are doing a testing purpose, so you are using the test mode. And inside that real-time database, so if you open the real-time database, again it will navigate to this screen. So we have 4 tabs over here. One is for data, one is for rules, the rules and regulation of the read and write permission right now. So it's this, and you can simply change that to like true also. So it's based on time right now, so it's checking the time. Based on the time, it will allow you to read or write. By default, it's give you like 1 month, and 1 month by default. If it's in test mode, today is 13/11, and if it's giving you the permission up to 12/13. If you want to change that, you can simply remove this section and enter true or false. So based on that, it will like it will give you the permission, read or write. And if you want to do the backup, you can do the backup over here. And if in the uses, it will show you the like the graph, the how many times you're calling that database, and how many users are calling, things like that. Okay, so we created our database, and now we're going to switch to the registration screen. So we need to create a user database in the user table. Inside the table, we're going to store all the registered user over here, and we're going to also when you're trying to implement the login functionality, so you can simply call that table based on the user ID and password, and you can simply that this user is exist or not for the login functionality. Okay, so we have a 4 state over here. One is for the name, email, password, and about. So we are using use state is a functional component, and we also added our like value, name, and on-chain stakes. It will on-chain state will update the state of the name, email, and everything. So we added this in a 4 field. So whenever you are going to click the register button, so instead of sending to the home screen, we are going to send that. We are going to call a function. So that function like register user. So we are going to call a function that is register user. So we need to define that function. So we are going to, so we have a function over here right now. So when you are trying to create a user, so first let's create an object of that user. Suppose that object name is data. So first we are going to need its name. Sorry, I have to colon. So name, and then is email ID. Email ID is email, and then is password. So I'm not going to use any kind of encryption here. Just simply everyone can simply see the password. So if you are implementing this in your project or somewhere else, so please make sure to add encryption, at least a base 64 encryption for the password, and just keep that in mind when you're going to implement that in your project. So we have an object of name, email ID, password, and about, and we also want to create an ID for that particular user, and for that ID we are going to use React Native UUID. You just need to install this package. We already installed that. So what you have to do, we just need to import this line. So just need to import this line, and then we just need to call this function to get a ID. So we are going to call this function. So we have an ID, name, email ID, password, and about. Now we need to store that data inside our real-time database. And if you want to create the validation, the user must need to insert the full details of everything. So we can simply do this. Not going to check, like, see, I am doing this for testing purpose, right? I'm just giving a basic flow of everything. So if you are using this, just make sure to just we're going to check it's a empty string or not. And if you are doing this, you also need to check there is a space or not, because if someone after clicking this field, if someone enters space at the at the beginning, it will also consider as a value. So just need to remove the space also. Otherwise we might face some issue in future. So we're going to check if it's an empty string or not. So, and then we also need the password. sorry, and then it's about. So you're going to check if there is a one parameter is empty, it will simply give us the, sorry, I guess we installed that package, React Native Simple Toast. I guess no. So we're going to use another package that's called React Native Simple Toast. So it will just it's for the show the pop-up that you need to fill out all the field and everything. And we're doing, you are using this package instead of Toast Android, because in case you are implementing your app in the iOS also, so Toast Android won't work. So if you use React Native Simple Toast, it will work with the both platform like Android and iOS. So the reason behind this, it is that it will work on both platform. So because of this, we are using this Simple Toast. Simple. So it's quite similar because similar to Toast Android. Fill in all the fields. Okay. So need to import the Simple Toast. We need to import manually. I don't know why auto input is not working. Okay. So we imported our Simple Toast, and just you need to import the Simple Toast and show, and you just can put the string over here. There are special method also you can try. It's like gravity and everything. Just not gonna go deep into that also. So after that, you just need to put a return. You can simply put return, or you can put return false. So it will block the function. It will it will not compile the other things in the function. It will just break the function over here because it's not satisfied the function, so it just return false. So let's give it a try. So if you click register now, it will say fill in all the fields. So if you fill up all the fields like password is like 1234, and so if you click register now, so it will show you the toast because you already put a condition. If any of the field is empty string, it will show us the toast. So for the email also, we are not going to put any condition for the email, like the unique email or something, because as I told you, we are doing this for testing purpose. We're not gonna do everything on every condition check and everything. So whenever you are going to implement this, please make sure to put a condition for the unique email ID. If email ID is already exists, it will return like email ID already exists. You need to change the email ID. Okay. So we already created a database. We already have that object we want to insert. Now we're going to look into the database. So we're going to insert into real-time database, right? You need to insert query. So here you can see like reference, reading data, one-time read, and everything. Inside that we have a write data option. Writing data, that means we're going to need to write the data. So just need to import this. You just need to import the Firebase real-time database, and below that we have a function. So using this function, we can simply do a insert query. So let's check. Okay, so for inside the set function, it will require an object. So you already have an object called data. So I'm going to pass that, and inside the reference, you have this one is the table name you are going to use, and this one is the table I can say the serial number of the particular data, like a unique ID or maybe something. So we're going to use this ID over here. So we can simply put data dot ID. So you're going to use that data, and the table name will be users. So if the data is like data sets, instead of data sets, we're going to show a toast that will allow that will show us the register successfully. Okay, so if we click on register now, let's see what happens. We click on register and it says registered and register successfully. So if we go to our database, we can see we have a table over here that's called users. It's basically a collection. In Firebase we call it collection. So a collection is over there, so it's called users, and inside that we have that unique ID that we provided over here, and you can also see the ID inside that particular object because we already provide that there also. So if we open the child, we can see about email ID, name and password. So we're going to use I guess register is successful. Yeah, not I guess, it's register is successful. Okay, so we're gonna need a couple of things in the future, like if we are going to implement the notification fundamental over here. So you're gonna need to store or maybe update the token over here, the app token for the Firebase FCM notification, and we're gonna also need the user profile in future. So we can simply we can simply create that, you can simply add that user profile now. So just let me if you click on user profile, if you go to the images, you can simply choose any user profile you want. Suppose we are going to choose this one. So if you click on copy image address, because in future we're going to do this like a proper how can I say, we're just passing this image user and user profile for now, so it will reflect everywhere, and we need this URL because when you are going to implement that their storage, we're going to use the storage for like storing the images. So so also there will like that thing also will provide a URL. So right now I'm going to use this image URL for like the image thing, and if you close this one, and if you want to create this user one more time, so if you remove the table, and because it's already saved the data we fill up at the beginning, so you're gonna click the register one more time and it will pop up register successfully. So now if we check, we also have an image column, image field over here. So register is successful. Now we're going to implement the logging things. So after register, you can simply return that user to the login screen, or you can do a couple of things like after register successfully, after showing the toast, you can simply set the value of name and everything to empty string like this. Yeah, so after register, it will empty the states, and after that it will redirect to the login screen. So let me save that and let me reload my application. So I want to show you the registration one more time. So if you click on register, so now we're going to insert our like dev2 @gmail.com, and you can also put a user regular expression to validate the email address. So password will be 1234 dev2 about or something like that. Okay, so if you click on register now, it will say register successfully and navigate to the login screen. And if you click or check our database, we have another child over here, and inside that we can see the dev2 over here, the email ID and the password. Okay, you can see everything regarding the dev2 and like the dev also. So now I'm going to implement this login functionality and check if the login is working or not. So if you like inside the screen, let me show you my file structure one more time. So we have a app folder, and inside that app folder we have the assets where we store the images. We have the component where we have the component like chat components, like header and everything, and also storing the constant inside that component. You can store the component constant outside the component also. We have a navigation file where we are using the like navigation and store like importing the files in order to navigate. So you have a two navigation file. One is the auth stack, another one is the app stack. Auth stack is like before login, and so we have a login register screen, and after login register we have a app stack where you can like use this stack after login. So we have a two stack over here, and inside after that we have a redux. I already explained the redux. And then after that we have a screen. So inside the screen we have a auth folder, home folder, and user folder. Home folder is for the like the chat list screen and single chat screen. You can simply rename that to chat folder or something like that. Just because we are landing on that screen, so that's why I named that as a home. So inside the auth folder we're going to open the login page, and we have we need to change the state name over here. So first we're going to use the email, and we're going to need another state, and that is pass. Okay, so inside the text input we're going to change this to set email and email. We don't need the number pad because it's going to be a email. You can simply provide keyword type to email address, and we have another field that is called password. Okay, so now you don't need use effect. So now whenever someone going to call this, we don't want to navigate that to particular app stack. We just want to call a function on press of login button. So we're going to name it login user. So now if we need to define that function login user. Okay, so now if you want to log in, so for that we need to like put a query in the Firebase function. So if you go to the real-time database, there is thing called one-time read and reading data. So if you like going to log in, that means you're going to log in, that means we're going to read that data one time, right? So if you're going to check this one here, so because we are putting a unique condition, we're going to query on the child, order by child, and we're going to check that we are getting any data or not. So we have two things. One is dev2@gmail.com, one is dev@gmail.com. So we just put a console that user data. If the data is showing, it is going to show the data. And first, if we click on login, it will show us like null, because it's not getting anything because we're not providing an email ID. So first let's put a condition. If the snapshot value is null, it's gonna say invalid email ID or password. So first, if the snapshot value equals to null, so it gonna like, we're going to import this and we're going to show invalid. So first, if you are getting this null, that means invalid email ID, because first we are going to fetch that based on email ID. So it will like, it will say yeah, invalid email ID. So if you like call again, it will say invalid email ID. And so let us provide a email ID over here, that is dev@gmail.com. So now if you click on login, so we can see a data, right? So we can see a data, but we are getting an object, and inside that object, that is, there is a unique key, and the value of that key is that whole object we want. So we don't know about this object. So in order to get this data directly, we can do one thing, and that is if we change the console to, we want to access the value of that object. So we have something called object.values. Inside the values, we can simply put the whole object, and it will only return the value inside that object based on that key, and it will be an array. Okay, so click on login again, and we can see we are getting an array, and inside that array we have an object that we want. We can see the about, email ID, and everything, password and everything. So after getting that, like if you name that user data, then we're going to store that inside that variable, and then we are going to check if we put that in a 0 index, that will only access the, because there always will be a 0 index in the array, because it will only provide the single data provided by the user. So if we put a 0 index, so it will only store the object. So if we put another condition, because we are not doing using any database, so based on that we are using this method. Maybe there is a separate method to do this in a better way. I cannot tell you that this is the only way to do that. There must be or will be a different way, because Firebase doesn't provide a proper documentation of everything. So this is all I can find. Okay, so based on that user data dot, we have something called password, and we're gonna put a condition that is true or not, and this equals to if this not equals to the password we are passing, it will say that it will toast that invalid password, right? So let's check if it's working or not. Okay, it says invalid password. Now if we enter our password, that is 1234, and now if we check, so it doesn't showing the pop-up. So we have our object, so you can simply put the user data over here. Now if we click on login, we can see our user data is the object. Okay, so now like we want to do some test cases, like if you remove the m from here and try to log in, it will provide like invalid email ID. If you put the m and remove password, like enter an incorrect password, it will say invalid password. So everything seems to work. And so now if you click on login, so where you can see the user data. We're getting a user data. So if everything is working this way, so now we can see, now we can say that our uh, login functionality is working. So now we completed the register, now we completed the login. Now we're going to do the authentication. So first need to store the data inside our Redux. So for that we're going to use dispersed by Redux toolkit. So if you want to import, sorry, like you can use dispersed by the React Redux. So if you are going to use the dispatch after the console, so if you open the Redux, inside the reducer we have a function called set user. So if you call this a set user, it will set the user, like set the data inside the Redux. So if you call a set user, we can import that from Redux, and if you pass the user data, so it will store the value inside that Redux. We also need to store this value inside our what do you say, like async storage, in order to, like, if someone is closing the application and opening the application again, so if you close an application, Redux value will be like going to the default rule, that is null. So you need to provide the data again. So for that we need the local database. So if you want logged in again, so it won't ask you for the login credential again. So for that we're going to call the auth. Okay, let me show you again. So we have that function auth. So we just need to call this set account, and it will set the data in account key in our async storage. So first we need to import that file auth, and then call set account, and then you have to pass the user data. So now it will, like, and also want to show a toast over here that login successfully. Okay, so now, okay, we cannot call await outside and async, so we need to pass an async over here. So if we pass the async over here, I guess it will work. Okay, it says could not find async storage. So let me check if we install that. Okay, so we imported a wrong one. We installed the different one. This is the latest one. The async storage library is moved from the community to its own library. So if we change that, and I guess if we reload our application, it should work. Yeah, it's working. So now if we I think I need to close our application, then open again. Okay, so now if we enter our password and enter an ID and password, now you can see that it will fetch the data that we want. Yeah, user data, and it also like stored that inside of Redux and async storage. So now we're going to do the authentication, and for the authentication we're going to open the app.js. So first inside that app.js, and let me show you one more thing. Whenever we are doing the set user, that means we are storing that data inside the inside the Redux. So we are making another value that login is true. By default it will be false, and after the login, if the user logins successfully, we are going to set that to true. So why we need that, I'm going to explain that later. I'm going to show you that. So for that, first we need to call a use effect. Why we need to call the use effect, let me explain. So inside the use effect, I'm going to call get user. Sorry, get user. We don't need any dependency over here. So if we call the get user, what are we going to do over here? We're going to call the async storage whenever you are going to open this application for the first time, not the first time, after closing the application. So we're going to call the async storage, and I'm going to check if the data is already exist or not. So if the data is already exist, so then if it's already exist, if data is not equals to null, that means data is already exist. So what are you going to do? We're going to set that data to our Redux also. So for that we need to call use dispatch. Okay, so use dispatch, and we're going to pass the data over here. So then data is stored inside our whenever you are closing your application, and after closing the application you are opening it again, so inside Redux it will be like undefined, there is no data stored, because if you close the application and the Redux data will be empty. So then we are going to check our async storage that will be stored inside your device, inside as local database. So we check there is already data exist or not. If it's exist, we are going to set that to like the user. After that we need to fetch our Redux data. So in order to fetch the Redux data, we are going to use selector, that is also provided by React Redux. And if you see over here, so in order to access the state, we need to provide this name that we are passing over here. So this is user, and if you want to like access the whole data of this user reducer, you can simply put that over here. And if you want to like do it like want to read data in a like one time at a one data at a time, so you can call user data and login like this using an object. So now we have user data, now we have a login. Okay, so whenever this dispatch is stored, so if the login is true, that means that user is login successfully. So then what are we going to do? We're going to put a condition over here. If the login is true, sorry, the auth is at the top, so we're going to put AND over here. If the login is false, AND means false, we're going to show the auth screen, and if it's true, we're going to continue to the app store. Now if we save, it will directly, use effect is not defined, we need to import. Okay, so now it will automatically redirect to the home screen. So if we close our application and open that again, it will directly redirect to the home screen. And talking about the login status, so we can simply use user data also, because user data will be a object, so we have to put condition like the object length is greater than 0 or not, and it's easy to use simply a boolean value. So that's why we are using the login. And you can there is one thing you can notice, I guess you noticed, whenever you are going to open the application, first there is a flash of login screen, and after that I am getting this to this screen. It's because the login value is by default false. So the time it's false, like a 1 second or maybe 500 millisecond or maybe 2 seconds. So that time seeing this auth screen. So what we need to do for that, we can simply do two things over here. So if you are implementing a splash screen, so you can simply, after the value checked, after you are checking the local database, you can set that now I am ready to navigate to a screen that logging in or maybe different. So you can do this here. So first we use a state, and the state name will be login check, something like that. So it will be false by default. or maybe true, and we also need to use import this use state. So whenever we are doing this, so login checked false, already checked, and if the data is not like null, so we need to also set that we check the login functionality, that data is not available. For that we are also putting that in a else, that if it's null, we are going to set that to false, and if it's not null, we can also set that to redux, and after that we are going to set that to false. So now we have a state login check. Then if it's true, that means the app is still checking the login fundamental, login credential, and getting the value from the local storage that the user is currently logged in or not. So if the login check is true, so we can do we can use a stack over here. We can create a menu like similar to the splash screen or maybe the logo. So we can put a condition like if the login check is true, like something like if login check is true. So based on if the true, there will be a stack available for that particular thing. You can do that also, or if not, we can also put that over here. So for the time being, I'm going to put that over here. And what is the benefit of putting that over here or that particular inside the stack? I'm going to, for the time being, I'm going to return a null. I'm going to that will be like a simple white type of screen, and I'm going to explain why we are going difference between putting here and the here. So let me save that, and now if you close the application and open the application again, you can see a white screen, and after that there is a direct home screen. So you cannot see the login screen anymore. Yeah, so if you are putting this over here, and if you are like, it's by default it's the white screen I'm showing. Like if it's null, it is going to show you a kind of white splash screen. So in future, when you are going to implement this in an application, you are going to you want to put a similar thing like the splash screen or maybe a logo screen. So when you implement that kind of screen, and if you by default it's returning that particular screen, right? So when it's changed, it will return that particular whole navigation. So it will kind of like a splash. You can see like a splash is going on. Suddenly a screen is showing on. Suddenly that is gone, and another screen is coming. So it will kind of a not a like proper animation or something like that. It will look pretty bad on your application. And if you implement this thing inside this, so it will be like a smooth animation. If you using the slide from right ISO, it will animate from the right side to left, and it will navigate to your home screen, and it will also come inside the right from the left side, doing a animation. There is the benefit of using that. Difference between putting that over here and over here. So yeah, that is so we don't have any logout screen right now. So we're gonna implement that login profile picture later, and we're gonna implement the logout over there. So if you want to check our register and login again, you can simply do one thing. Because we are using async storage, so you need to clear the local data of your application. So you're going to click the clear the storage, and if you open the application again, it will open right to the login screen, because we don't have that local data anymore. So if we are going to this else function, because data is by default null. Okay, so now we're going to do a register one more time. So if we already have a two data, so if you enter dev3, and email ID is dev3@gmail.com, and password is 1234, and about is dev3 about. So if you click on register, so it will say register successfully, and you can also see the data dev3 over here. Okay, so now I'm going to log in. So if you enter something called dev3@gmail.com, not com. Suppose we enter .com, so it will say invalid password. So if you provide a password 1234, it will redirect to the login screen. First I am to show you the invalid login, invalid email ID, because we already did a condition over in the login. If the value is null because we are not getting any data based on the email ID, so it will say invalid email ID. And if the email ID is correct and the password you provided is wrong, so it will say invalid password, because after getting the data, the password I am providing right now, so it's not similar to the password we are getting, so it will show the invalid password. And if everything is right, so it will set the data to our Redux and the local storage, and Firebase toast login successfully. So if we enter 4 over here, so that's all email ID and password. If you click on login now, it will login successfully and redirect to the home screen. And if you click clear the app from the background, and if you open our application again, it will automatically redirect to the home screen. So this is our authentication flow for the application. So we completed the authentication flow using navigation 5. Okay, so the register and login functionalities are working right now as we checked. And the next video we're going to implement, we're going to fetch the user list over here. We're going to fetch all the users that are registered except myself, like the one who logged in, except that one. We're going to fetch all the user. So based on that user you can do chat, because by default when you are a fresh user there will be no chat list. We're going to put some kind of an GIF and a button to like start chat, and after clicking that button we're going to navigate the user to this particular screen, and then if we click on that, and after that you can do chat. So in the next video we're going to fetch this screen and try to complete this chat list screen. So after getting the chat list, then we're going to implement the final stage of the application, and it's not like that final stage for now, the single chat. After that we're going to also implement the, you can share images in between, like you can share images to a person, and someone is also requested wants me like I can share audio also. So we're gonna try to implement that also. We're gonna also implement push notification, and we're going to use a different thing. I'm not going to use directly push notification. We're going to use a complete different thing, and that is 100% things that are working, because using directly push notification sometimes we face some issue like things are not working in all devices and something stuff like that. So we're going to also use a directly and Firebase notification based on token, and I will also implement after clicking in a notification, it will directly redirect to the chat screen. So we're going to implement couple of things. So for now this is our authentication flow for this video. I hope you guys liked it, and don't forget to mention your thoughts in the comment section. And if you like this video, if you like my content, you can subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon and give it a like, and comment your thought in the comment section. So see you in the next video. Bye bye.